Words are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brain.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremo.
Oh yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day of not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now, the two guys that took 2 years to fix their audio problems.
Welcome to BGFG, kind of a supplemental, I guess you could say. So I moved. The entire FMG studio is moved. We are at a different location, which is very cool. As you can see, if you're watching the video, got some stuff back there. It's all good. And, we'll probably do a little bit of a talk about that, but I want to get on here and at least post something. And I don't know where Fremo is right now. I tried calling him, but he's indisposed, I guess. Who knows with that guy. But I was definitely just wanted to jump on real quick and let all of our listeners know that technically we are back. So starting this week, we'll be bringing back all the fun that you have with us and just talking a little bit about all the different things that are going on. I was going through some of the save stories. So I use a program that's an aggregator of news. That's where I pull all the news from. And I was going through some of the stuff that I've listed as things that I wanted to post or talk about, and there's just a lot. I mean, I have to get through them a lot. And one of the things that came up a lot was I kept seeing these Subtopia Null stuff, and Freeman and I have been teasing Subtopia Null for God only knows how long. And I think it's time in the month of February, possibly March, that we start getting that Subtopia Null thing going. And Subtopia Null is essentially a show that we're going to do about not necessarily conspiracy theories, but things that, I don't want to sit there and start talking about vaccines and, whether you should or shouldn't get them, or if politicians are telling the truth about anything, or the CDC or Fauci or any of that shit. I don't want to do any of that crap. And I know neither does Fremo, because it's not something that we do. And every time we do, we end up getting in trouble for it. And then, you got all the mob crush and YouTube and Twitch ban hammers that come down every time. So we don't want to deal with that. But some of the stuff that we were looking into is we're going to touch upon ancient Egypt, Sacsayhuama, Aztecs, Pumapunku. What are some of the other ones? The American Stonehenge, which is the Georgia Guidestones, Stonehenge, just things themselves. And again, we're not sitting there trying to make you disbelieve something. We're just simply trying to point out different things. For instance, one of the things I have in here is UFO sightings that aren't aliens. And I think that's one of those things that you have to remember. So here's a little primer for it. One of my favorite planes is the SR-71 Blackbird. Phenomenal plane. I think it was decommissioned. Let me look it up real quick. So it was around for, what did it do? A service of a decade, I think. It was decommissioned in 1988. So, I'm sorry, 1998. So just to give you a synopsis of what the things that we're going to talk about that people don't really realize or that get glazed over or glanced over. The United States Air Force retired the SR-71 Blackbird. This is that long black ship or I want to say ship because there's other things, but aircraft that was decommissioned in 1988. It looks just like the X-Men airplane, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it was decommissioned in 1998 from the United States Air Force. Now, the thing that people don't realize is that this was first introduced in 1966. The first flight of it was in 1964. Super top secret. Nobody knew about it. It just literally flew, So in 1964 was his first flight. In 1966 it was introduced. You have to say throughout the 70s and 80s, it did its job. All stealth, all secretive, all off the books. Well, not necessarily off the books, but you know what I mean. So Lockheed designed this, and it's stunningly beautiful, I think. But just wrap your mind around that for a second. It was decommissioned in 1998. Okay, so these planes need about 10 years to legitimately test flight, I guess you could say. And then they're going to be in service for 10, 15 years or so. So just wrap your mind around that. It was decommissioned in 1998. We probably saw it and knew of it around, 1995 maybe. We started hearing a little bit about it because it's on its way out to being decommissioned. So all those times when you hear about Groom Lake, Area 51, Dulles, when you hear about all these air bases, you have to realize that the planes that they're testing are 20 years into the future. We're not going to see them or hear about them for another 20 years. So there's technologies that are being used. The SR-71 Blackbird still, I do believe that the top speed of the Blackbird is still classified to this day. It's over Mach 3, but it's still classified as for the top speed. That was in 1998. It was decommissioned, and it's still classified as to how fast that goes. So that's going to make you wonder what's up there now. So when you see these UFO sightings and things, they're not necessarily aliens. They're never, well, I shouldn't say never. They're not, the majority of them are not alien ships. The majority of them are other countries or ourselves testing things, and they just simply can't talk about it. It doesn't matter if United States Air Force pilot or a American Airlines pilot takes a picture of it. It doesn't matter. This is super top secret. It's not going to get out. It's not going to be talked about. It's not going to be known. It's not going to be approved. There's not going to be anything. They're just going to say, we don't know what that is. And it's just simply not true. And then we're going to go into things like, the Majestic 12 and Project Blue Book and all these other things that were supposed to look and discover alien aircraft. And you have to also, like I said, realize that we're not the only country that's doing this sort of stuff. There's other countries that are doing different programs for different, defense aircrafts and tanks and things like that. There's stuff that you have no idea about, neither do I, that have been developed over decades and decades and decades, just like the SR-71 Blackbird, decommissioned in 1998. First flight was in 1964. You do the math. It's been up there. It's been seen, even accidentally. So what do we know that's going on at Area 51? What do we know that's going on at Dulles, Groom Lake, in Germany and Russia? There's all these things. So that's kind of like a primer, and I just want to touch base with everybody and let them know that we're back for the majority of it, and we'll see how things go. I want to get in touch with Fremo again and see what's good for him, see what we're going to do. And don't forget to catch our sister show, Stick Style, which is back as well now that I have everything set up at the new place. Catch us on Stick Style, and that's usually the gaming stuff. So right now I know we're playing a lot of Halo single player, Halo multiplayer, Fortnite still, because the kids still are playing Fortnite. And it's funny, everybody bashes on Fortnite, but if you make it to the top 25, that's pretty much gamers at that point. Everything below the top 25 is just people that are trying it out the first time, or 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, people that don't know any better. But also remember that out of all my kids that bitch about Fortnite, they all still play. Their accounts are still active. And every time I try to ask them about, no, I don't play. Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. So there's still people doing that. So that's it for now. Don't forget to email us. Don't forget to text us. Follow us on Twitter. And just reach out to us. We have no problem in answering questions or anything like that. And that's about it. And we'll talk to you real soon.
So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast Podcast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.